Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen. I want to talk about North Korea. Kim Jong-un has threatened to build the capability to hit the United States with an ICBM and a nuclear warhead. Seems to be obsessed towards gaining that capability. Secretary Mattis, do you believe that's an existential threat to our country if he were to gain that capability?
I do, Congresswoman. He doesn't have it yet, but we don't have to wait until it's there to start addressing it. Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. And I agree with you, should diplomacy fail, and we need to use conventional capability to deal with this threat, can you paint a picture in this environment of what that would entail and what's left of North Korea when it's over?
It would be a war like nothing we've seen since 1953. And there would not, we would have to deal with it with whatever level of force was necessary. I'm not the most articulate on this, ma'am, but it would be a very, very serious war.
General Dunford, do you want to comment on that?
You asked about North Korea, Congresswoman McSally. Let me talk about South Korea. Regardless of what happens, there's 25 million people in Seoul. 300,000 of those are Americans who are within range of thousands of rockets, missiles, and artillery pieces along the border. I don't have any doubt in my mind if we go to war with North Korea that we will win the war. We will be successful in accomplishing our objectives. I'm equally confident in what Secretary Mattis said, in that conflict we will see casualties unlike anything we've seen in 60 or 70 years. And in many of those casualties will be in the first 3, 5, 7 days of the war, where all those people in the greater Seoul area exposed to the North Korean threat that we will not be able to mitigate initially.
Thank you. I just think the American people need to understand the gravity of the situation that we're dealing with, but also our enemies need to know that ultimately, even as we're discussing readiness challenges and other challenges, we will win. But this is like something we've never seen in my lifetime anyway, should deterrence fail and should diplomacy fail. One of the capabilities you will need in that scenario, I was on the hook to deploy over there in the O plans, is the mighty A-10 Warthog. I was pleased to see in the President's request fully funding the remaining 283 aircraft, which is 9 operational squadrons. But we don't have the funding in there for re-winging the remaining 110 that need re-winging. They'll be grounded soon if they're not re-wung. It is on your unfunded request, which is good. But 9 squadrons is not a lot. Right now they're on the DMZ. They're fighting against ISIS. They're deploying periodically to Europe to deal with the threat from Russia. And last week we had Air Force generals testify that they're willing to go down to 6 squadrons, a cut of 30%. 33%, should the re-winging not happen. So you've agreed that you want this capability at least until 2030, and I appreciate finally getting to that point, and I realize the limitations we've had fiscally in the last years. So we want the capability to at least 2030, but if we were to provide that funding for the re-winging of the remaining 110, would you appreciate having the capacity of having those 9 squadrons given the threats we're facing?
Absolutely, the priorities are right where they are right now, but if we got the money for the additional ones, it would increase our warfighting capability.
Great, thank you. General Dunford, anything else to add?
The only thing I'd say, Congresswoman, I think you understand the dynamic. What I always tell the Chief of Staff of the Air Force is, I said, look, to meet our requirements right now, I need all of your legacy capability and a little bit more. And I also need you to start taking your legacy capability offline to grow the Air Force that we need tomorrow. So they really have come in. I think they've got it about right in terms of prioritization within the top line they've been given. But the truth of the matter is that there is more requirement than there is capability and capacity at 55 squadrons.
Exactly. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. And I yield back.